Welcome back, best ever listeners, to another episode of Passive Investor Tips. I'm your host, Travis Watts. Got a very short but exciting and impactful episode for you today. We're talking about how much you need to retire, and I'm going to give you the simple formula. Disclaimers as always, never financial advice, not telling you or anyone what to do with your money. Please seek licensed financial advice. With that top of mind, I have a secret to share with you. And that secret is the amount of time that's going to be required until you can retire comes down to one primary factor. That primary factor is your savings rate. That's right, your savings rate. How much in terms of percentage can you save from your take-home pay while you're still in your working years? So this episode was actually inspired by a conversation I had with a friend of mine out in Colorado. Some of you may know him as Mr. Money Mustache. His actual name is Pete. He lives in Longmont, Colorado. He is a financial blogger online. He's also an advocate for the FIRE movement, Financial Independence Retire Early, which we covered in last week's episode. And while Pete and I may disagree on many different aspects to financial education, we absolutely agree on this topic, which is, if you don't save $1, if you don't even save 1% of your pay, then essentially you're never going to retire unless someone else does the heavy lifting for you, whether that be a spouse or a parent or a pension or the government in terms of Social Security and so on. Now, on the flip side, if you somehow could figure out how to save 100% of your money and you really don't need any money to survive or live, then you could effectively retire right now. So the key is getting your investment portfolio to produce enough income that you can cover your living costs. So my friend Pete created this chart to better articulate this point. I'm going to put it up here on the screen for our viewers tuning in on YouTube. And if you're tuning in on audio, I will do my best to articulate what you're seeing here on the screen, or feel free to visit our YouTube channel and scroll down to Passive Investor Tips. So what we're looking at right now on the chart, this is Pete's chart. He uses just a base case example here. He says, look, you can retire in 10.9 years if you had a savings rate of 64%. Now, if you saved 50% of your income and lived on the other half, then according to this chart, you'd be ready to rock and roll in about 16 years. And by the way, there is a very well-known celebrity out there who has pretty much done just this, at least saving 50% of their income, if not more. That, my friends, is Mr. Jay Leno from The Tonight Show. He's been quoted as saying he never spent a dime of his NBC money or salary. He lived off the income that he produced doing stand-up comedy on the side. Just a little side fun fact for you to share there, but there are some assumptions being made on this chart. A couple that I'll point out is that, number one, first-year investments need to produce 5% in terms of an overall return on an annualized basis after factoring in inflation. Number two is you live on 4% of your portfolio's value. Now, my friend Pete is definitely a low-cost index fund stock market investor. That's one thing that we definitely clash and differ on, but just for some perspective, he's using that as the methodology here. But there's a couple practical takeaways just to think about for you and I. And the first would be that if you take, for example, someone who's currently just saving 10% of their income, and you are able to bump that up to just 15%, so just 5% more in terms of a savings rate, that could actually shave off 7 to 8 years until retirement. And that could actually be pretty easy for many of us who maybe splurge on going out for coffee or drinks after work, or go to a lot of restaurants and eat out, or buy luxury cars or go on luxury vacations. You don't have to cut all that stuff out, but just some of it could equate to an additional 5% savings rate. And what we're really talking about is getting 7 to 8 years of your life back. I'd say that's well worth the short-term sacrifice. And here's another way to look at it. If you're going to use the 4% rule, whether you're a stock investor or a real estate investor, it doesn't really matter, then the math suggests that you need 25 times your annual salary. So look at how much money you're going to need in a given year for retirement. We'll call it $100,000. Times it by 25. You need $2.5 million in investments, again, producing a 5% return after factoring in inflation. So something to think about here for the week. I know this was a short and sweet episode. I wanted to pack this in before I forgot about it as we wind down the series here. Appreciate you all taking the time to support this channel and support this show. We're in our last few episodes as we wind down Passive Investor Tips. I'm Travis Watts, always happy to be a mentor or resource for you. You can reach out on social media, Travis Watts or at Passive Investor Tips. Until the next episode, have a best ever week, everyone, and we'll talk to you very soon.